thank you, Miles. I'll have to talk to George. I'll get back to you soon. We'll try one more time. The year is 1992. Oh, thank you, Miles. I'll have to talk to George, but I'll get back to you soon. George, can you come upstairs, please?
Hey, Mary Beth, what's up?
Well, we need to have a conversation where we communicate clearly and honestly, because we're Christians and we're patient, and as a married couple, we never disagree on anything.
Yeah, that sounds easy.
So I just got off the phone with Miles Strodel.
Wait, that guy from that camp you went to as a little girl?
Yeah, and they want us to come up and work full time.
I see. Okay, well, how'd he take it when you said, no way?
Well, I actually didn't say that.
Mary Beth, that dog ain't gonna hunt. You know. That phone is gonna ring any day with that professional rugby contract that I know is coming my way. This kind of talent cannot be squandered.
George, you're right. You are so talented. But this is temporary. And then as soon as the phone rings with that rugby career, we'll go. We'll chase that dream together.
Okay, well, you didn't say no. What did you say?
Well, okay, imagine this. Hours and hours and days alone in the woods. Not a soul to bother you. Nobody keeping you off schedule. Always on time.
Honestly, that sounds pretty good.
Right? Imagine the chance to read all the books you've ever dreamed of reading.
Keep going.
Okay, imagine 3-day hikes in the White Mountains. Canoe trips where you only bring necessary gear. No ice skates, no extra weight to carry. Right? A cup of coffee with miles of gorgeous views.
Well, I do like a cup of something with a nice view.
A strong cup. And I haven't even gotten to the best part.
What's the best part?
The job includes a house. Our own house, a private sanctuary where no one will ever bother or come in unannounced or at weird hours. We'll never come home to people in our house. It'll be a quiet, special little nook.
Whoa, our own house? How big is it?
Oh, it's huge, massive.
Okay, do you know how much money it pays?
Well, it'll probably be a salary, but $275 an hour?
$275 an hour? I think we could make that work.
Yeah, $275 an hour.
Okay, well, what's your job gonna be?
Well, I'll be working in summers at camp, and then year-round, I found a local school, and like all teachers across the country, it pays extremely well.
You know, this is starting to make sense. What's my job gonna be?
Well, occasionally, you'll have to lead kids on trips. Teach them to love the outdoors, just like you do.
Okay, that's Mary Beth, that's our first problem. I kind of hate kids, you know this.
No, George. Not these kids. They're always polite. They never misbehave. And the best part is they love to hike without complaining.
Okay, if you can guarantee those kinds of kids,
Yeah.
we might be able to make this work. Is that going to be my job year-round?
Well, no, that would be in the summers. I think Miles is hoping you'll start a conference season.
What? A conference season? That sounds like a ton of work. Mary Beth, I'm going to be busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest.
No, George, no. It'll be easy. Late mornings, early nights. Every group will know exactly what to do. We don't have to cook for them. They do everything on their own. They make it so easy. It's more of a chaperoning job than anything. We just make sure the place doesn't, burn to the ground.
Mary Beth, you know I love you. You know I do. I'm afraid I'm going to have to say no on this one. This just sounds like the kind of thing we see yes to and discover it's so much more work than we ever dreamed of.
George Bowling, I want this. I need this. We're doing this. You dragged me down south here. I don't want to be here. I haven't complained. And now I ask you to do this one teeny tiny job for 1 year. And you're going to push back on me?
Oh, there's nothing more fiery than a scorned woman.
Sorry, what was that?
Nothing, dear, nothing. Okay, I understand. Can you at least let me get that dog I've always dreamed of?
No, we're never getting a dog.
All right. You're right about the whole down south thing. Fine, I will do this. I will do this for you. I understand. I will do it on one condition.
And what is that?
I will drag my behind up to the White Mountains of New Hampshire. As long as you agree that this is temporary, we do it for 1 year, 2 years maximum.
Oh, George, there's no way that we'll be there for more than 2 years. Deal.
Deal.
No wonder we love skids at camp. It's the best part. This is my husband Andrew, and these are our two little ones right here. And we get to tell a story or two about MD and George now.
Which is kind of intimidating given that,
Yeah.
and given all the legends under the tent I've been hearing about my whole life but never met. Given the look on George's face right now. Don't know what you think I'm gonna say. My first memory of camp is standing in the parking lot, feeling super awkward because, like many before and since, and like George, I came to camp for love. And I found that the object of my affection knew everybody and was everywhere, catching up with all of her best friends from her whole life. And I was standing there, total stranger. Bob calls this being at someone else's high school reunion, I think. And some of you are having that experience at this very moment. Shout out to Sean West, who had his birthday yesterday. But luckily, there were two people I had met once. That winter, I'd been visiting Jess in Scotland, where she was studying abroad for the year. And I got to have dinner, and lucky for me, two people from camp had been sent over to Scotland to recruit staff, and that was George and MD. And we got to sit down and eat dinner together in a restaurant with an unusual and somewhat raunchy name. And I remember a certain amount of giggling over dinner as they discussed who was going to turn this receipt back into Debbie. So I was lucky though, because one of the two people I knew was going to be my boss. And the first thing I realized about George is that he has a Mount Everest-sized gift for welcoming people, for making them feel like they belong, for loving you just the way you show up, whether you show up as an accomplished outdoors person or literally wearing a garbage bag. George makes you feel included in this great big adventure. He folded me right into the family, and before I knew it, I was privy to the furthest reaches of the trip locker and to inside jokes, and most important, to our shared mission. I've never had a boss who modeled the way so fully as George. And because of his leadership, I'm not going to be the first person to cry on stage going after Debbie Strodel. When the time came for me to meet up with a young Paul Steinweg in the Fox cabin and take him on an overnight hike, I just tried to do what George had done for me, tried to make them feel like they were included in this great big adventure, which is a little bigger than we'd intended, and we got to do something special together. Even when he's misbehaving, George's gift for including people shines through. I got to paddle the Allagash with George about 15 years ago, and as a rainstorm approached, we pulled over and threw up a kitchen tarp for everybody to huddle under while the storm blew through. After a while, I look around, no George. So I wandered down to the boats to check on things, and there he is, sitting in the stern of the boat, pack basket open, eating contraband Nutella out of the jar with a spoon. He held out a spoon to me. So I grabbed it and joined in, and pretty soon we got busted by our other co-instructor, Ali Lenzi. Out comes another spoon, one more co-conspirator. And we managed to get the goods put away just in time before the kids came down and busted us. In fact, later that day, or maybe later in the trip, we crossed paths with another group. And one of our LVPs comes back saying, "Can you believe it? Damien in the other group, he brought a secret jar of Nutella and he's not sharing it with anybody." We just smiled. So, on behalf of everyone who's ever led or been on a trip with Brookwoods or Deer Run in the last 250 years, I want to thank you, George, for putting up with our antics, for getting the stove and the pot for the overnight, getting vans stuck in the central parking garage at Rogan, breaking canoe paddles in Chase Rapids, getting in the hammock with our shoes on to eat yet another Snickers Big One before breakfast. And would like to thank you for setting the tone with your own antics, paddling the Allagash with a spare tire in your boat, lugging the square stern out of the rafters in Moose Hall at great risk to life and limb every year, catching the big fish, letting the even bigger one get away, paddling the brook at flood stage, baking second year's birthday cakes on Shabugamoo in the Dutch oven, and most of all, for loving all of us the whole way. We love you, George.
So here are 3 lessons I learned from you. Lesson 1, flexibility and how to pivot quickly. In life, highlighted especially at camp, situations change fast when we least expect them to, right? And Mary Beth is masterful at positivity, calm, and quick thinking. When in doubt, she sang. When an unexpected thunderstorm thwarted our campfire plans, or as 100 campers waited for lunch when the chicken fingers aren't quite ready, what should we do? Let's sing. Everybody. The cannibal king with a big nose fell in love with a husky maid, and every night the daylight, this is what they say. Okay, we could go on with that one. The popcorn machine broke, and we can't exactly find the diamonds for diamond smugglers. Camp Deer Run is the place for me. Boom, boom, boom. Camp Deer Run is the place for me. Boom, 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 boom. I'm as happy here as I can be now. Ain't that heavenly? Lesson 2. We could go on, right? With the songs all day long. I really want to do Eddie Coochie Catchinary Toastinary. Maybe we should. She says yes. Eddie Coochie Catchinary Toastinary Toastinary, say my came a wacky bra. Fell into the well, fell into the well, fell into the deep dark well. Okay.
I've been hearing that one for 24 years and I still can't say the first word.
Eddie Coochie Catchinary? Lesson number 2. Lead and live with joy. When a leader is passionate about her mission, it is contagious and inspiring for everybody. Mary Beth loves nothing more than white glove inspection on Sunday mornings, right? Dress staff sharp, brand new white gloves, okay, maybe borrowed from the costume closet. With her unit directors smartly in tow, she would walk slowly into each cabin. With a deadpan face and a running commentary about every unstraightened shelf. Ooh, there's a stray sock. Maybe a 1-point talk, please. A smear on the mirror. Oh, getting down on her knees to demonstrate how to scrub that floor. Listening giggles and whispers from all the girls who were so delighted. Mary Beth's gone. White glove inspection. And this spirit of fun is MB at her core. Being present in this moment and modeling joy. Last lesson, passionate, humble faith. I'll never forget, MB, how you led Vespers and closing campfires. There was something so special when night fell, and it was just the girls sitting cross-legged together on that Deer Run carpet. Or when we watched the kindling of the flames together. I remember the way you led devotions. And I remember your final campfire mini sermon. How you explained what happens when we light one candle. When Christ lights up the world. And what a difference that can make. And again, you led us in singing, which I have since heard described as praying twice. With reverence, with devotion, with single-minded faith. I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you. Oh, my soul, rejoice. For humble thyself in the sight of the Lord. Humble thyself in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. Higher, higher, and he shall lift you up. In fact, I need to tell you, MB, that I sang those two songs last week. I was visiting one member of my congregation who was sick in the hospital, and I held his hands, and we sang those worship songs together. Singing is an intimate form of prayer that kindles the heart and invites faith, but is never forceful. The many girls who have sung these songs with you, unknowingly memorizing psalms and scripture as they sing, received a lifelong gift from God because of your example. So be flexible, lead with joy, trust God, and put faith first. These are the leadership lessons that you not only taught me, but hundreds of young ones, and through their children and their grandchildren, thousands of women. Thousands of women. And so we thank God for your unbelievable service as Deer Run director, for your 49 special summers at camp, beginning, I believe, in 1972. We are who we are because of you, and we love you.
Box. One more thing, yeah. So, like Jess said, most of us here have more than once knocked on the door of the Owl or just barged right in. I, for one, have been busted using the bathroom when nobody's home there. But one of the gifts that the two of you gave together to all of us is getting to see what a Christian marriage looks like. And there are a lot of marriages out here that have some of your fingerprints on them. So anyway, that's a gift you've given so many of us, and there's a little gift here for you. Are we gonna make them come up here and open it? Or? Yeah, okay, you're gonna come on out.
He's got a knife. Yeah. It's really
In our family, the joke is, George always says, if he has his pants on, he has a pocket knife.
it's fun that the owl is part of bowling.
I found a cat at home. Where's Mommy? Where is her? Is Mommy at home?
So it's a canoe dolly, so I don't even have to carry my super lightweight canoe. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. This was overwhelming. So, George asked how I was doing at the beginning of church, and I said I'm like right on the verge of tears here. And it's not sadness. It's this summer I missed camp absolutely, but it's the overwhelming blessing of seeing all of you, and you are what make camp. The place is amazing. How can you beat that beauty? And the purpose is, so important. But the people are what make camp, and God's love here through all of you. So thank you.
Oh, hey Bob.
Hey Mary Beth. Thanks for meeting with me.
No problem. How's it going?
Overall, honestly, things are going great. It's been an awesome summer. Well,
But?
I thought I'd reach out to you because you and George are about a year ahead of us in this whole process, this whole transition thing.
Yeah, true.
Well, and I thought, so because of that, I thought you guys are going to be the perfect people for me to bounce some ideas off of and just kind of go over some things just to make sure I'm not missing something.
Okay, so how you doing so far? How's Tim doing?
You know what? That's a great place to start. Tim is doing awesome. We have been having weekly meetings. He is now set up in what was my office. I got him a plaque with his name, Tim.
That's great, Bob. I think you're doing really well so far. I mean,
Well, there is one thing.
what?
Well, honestly, it's his typing.
Typing?
He's all over the place. It's like his fingers are all going. An executive director needs 2 fingers to type. It's about being decisive.
Bob, I use lots of fingers. A lot of people use all fingers.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, you didn't know that about me?
No, I guess. Sorry. Well, I probably shouldn't focus on that. So, you're right. How are you guys doing with the living off of camp property transition? How's that going?
Pretty good. We're mostly all settled. There's still a few boxes, but
Well, I'm actually pretty surprised with the housing market that you guys only have a few boxes. So, hats off to you for only having a few. Have there been any surprises? Anything that made you go, oh, didn't think of that?
oh, well, people just don't mow your lawn whenever it needs cutting.
What?
Yeah, we actually had to buy our own mower, and I had to learn how to use it.
You had to buy. I gotta start like researching mowers. Should I get a push mower? Should I get
You
like
can also just get someone to do it for you.
You can? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, but if I hire someone, do they just kind of like willy-nilly mow whatever they want, however they want?
Yeah, I guess you would have a say in it, but...
Well, that's good, because, well, I don't know if you've ever talked to the maintenance staff. I can be a little particular about how the mowing lines are. I'll have to figure out which window of the house will I be looking at. But that's good to know. That's great, thank you. Anything else?
Also, you have to buy your own printer, and you have to fill it with paper.
I need to keep the printer full of paper?
Well, also Debbie, but...
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Well, are there any pluses to living off of camp?
Well, you don't get 2 a.m. walkie-talkie calls.
Oh, that I would count that as a plus. That's good. Anything else?
Also, people don't know you're home just by driving into the camp.
Even though people sometimes, it's great to see people, I can see that being a plus too, so that would be nice.
How about some of the symbolic stuff?
Symbolic stuff? What do you mean? We're kind of going by the book.
You know how I love the costume closet?
The costume closet is your thing. Yep.
Well, I gave the key to Beth.
You gave the key to the costume closet to Beth? I mean, wow, that does make sense. But that's definitely like a passing the torch moment. Wow.
Well, it was pretty good. Well, it was pretty tough, but afterwards it felt good.
Okay. Well, normally I'd say the big passing of the torch moment for the executive director is that moment where we hand the keys to the main house over. But I might be just handing them to Bob Rathburn because some work needs to be done. What would be a good symbolic handover for me?
At the moment, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm drawing a blank too. What could it be?
Oh, hey, Mary Beth, hey, Bob. Could I get the keys to the rocket shed from you?
All right, so good afternoon. Well, I'm gonna try that again because this group is way more active than that. Good afternoon. All right, I feel better. So I'm actually doing a little bit of a stand-in here. So Peter Bennett, we had invited to come and speak on behalf of both his experience with Bob and tell some stories as well. But Peter had a family event yesterday and couldn't make it, and was gracious enough though to write up a letter. So I'm going to read through that letter, and there'll be some teams here that I think David called out. So I want to ask people to raise hands, but you can kind of keep track of a couple of funny sayings here too. And then after reading the letter, I want to just say a couple of things myself as well. So here we go. So greetings. The Strodel family has a long history with Brookwoods and Deer Run, and more recently with Moose River Outpost. This has been quite a legacy. Miles Strodel, Grace Strodel, Woody Strodel, Bob Strodel, Debbie Strodel, Dave Strodel, Joan Strodel, and on. Thank goodness he can keep on going. Miles, who returned as executive director soon after our family first became involved, set the pace with very much of a service mentality. He was often heard saying to the board, "Whatever you gentlemen want." It was a different story, however, when it came to looking for his replacement. He told us in no uncertain terms, "You need to find someone who understands the unique culture of the camp," as he called it, "or you will destroy the place." The board took this to heart, searched far and wide, and in the end, he came up with the name of Robert Strodel, someone who had spent pretty much his entire life at camp, there's one, and had served on summer staff for a year. But really, give me a break, a rocket man from the missile division of Martin Marietta? Well, you know the rest of the story. After Bob and Debbie arrived at Brookwoods and Deer Run in May of 1994, Bob spent the first 2 years learning as much as he could from Miles about the challenges of running a camp. The next 7 years trying to keep his sanity while he worked with the board, which was Bob, Jerry, and Peter Bennett at that point in time. And then the final 20 years directing what some would now say is the best run Christian camp in the country. Bob's accomplishments are many, but what I want to share is this. Bob did a great job managing one of the most challenging small businesses that one could imagine. One of our early directors described summer camp as a leaky bucket in which a fair portion, 20%, 30% of your customers age out or don't return. How many businesses do you know where in addition to having to refill the bucket every year, you are responsible for the following? First, overseeing 3 very different businesses: summer camps, winter and fall retreats, and timbering and maple sugaring. Second, recruiting and training the staff and counselors during 2 weeks of staff week, many of whom have never been to camp before. 3, recruiting campers and raising financial support for 3 different camps. 4, serving as executive director of 2 501c3 organizations, namely the New Hampshire and Maine organizations. And then 5, overseeing 2 camps with different programs located 5 hours apart and operating in 2 different states. Bob grew with the job as it became increasingly complex and rather quickly and successfully transitioned from the day-to-day challenges of running a camp to that of a broadly based chief executive who joined the board of directors. One of the things that Bob was often heard to say was, "You cannot minister to an empty bed." Here's another one. So much of his focus was on growing and filling the camp each year. While some thought Bob was a bit too dogmatic as a leader, he quickly gained the confidence of the board, parents, and donors, and was particularly effective in dealing with the various crises that would inevitably arise, and there were some. Bob was a man of action, and he managed to stay out of trouble most of the time. Of course, I went looking for page 3 on this to see what the most of the time was, but it wasn't there, so I'm gonna have to follow up with Peter after this. 2 notable examples of his action orientation were the purchases of Plum Island and the nearby farmhouse property, which the camp would not own today if it were not for Bob. Well, I could go on, but thinking back to my earlier comment on Miles, I would simply say, well done, Bob, thou good and faithful servant. Thank you for your passion for the camp and for this ministry, and for the lasting impact of your leadership on so many young lives over the past 30 years. My friend Bob, enjoy your family, which I know you will, and maybe build a few rockets. And don't go too far away, we're going to miss you. Peter Bennett Chair, 84 to 2007. Let's hear it for Peter. So what I'd like to do is actually amplify one of the things that Dave had some fun with, which is, and Peter mentioned, which is ministering to an empty bed. And I want to read from Matthew 6:20 to 21. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So what I truly believe and understand about Bob is that his focus has always been on the ministry. So the empty beds would really, I've heard that innumerable times over the past 20 years, but it would always bother him, and his focus was always on the ministry and not on him, even though I know this afternoon is a little bit more on him. To reflect, he and I would have a typical weekly call with both of our roles. And this week, he spent more time talking about how he is going to successfully complete the capital campaign, which we appreciate, in a variety of manners, from staff kid to camper to camp counselor to executive director. I've spent more time walking on the ground at camp than anyone alive. That's another one. Camp has been more than a ministry, it's been my home. But more importantly, he said this. He said, my desire is to continue to see the ministry flourish and grow, making eternal impact on the lives of the campers, guests, and staff. So for me, I think, Bob, this has been a wonderful example of that faithfulness, that consistency, and that love. And I think he really should be an inspiration for all of us. So, Bob, I know where your heart is. Thank you, and good luck.
All right. Thank you, David. I'm Todd Blount. I know most of you. I worked here in the late 80s and early 90s. It was a lot of fun, but I didn't get to know Bob until I joined the board in the early 2000s. One of the very first things we got to do is write a strategic plan. Now, like many of you have been through the Brookwoods Deer Run and Moose River programs, we became leaders, or at least we're in leadership here at camp. And when you build a strategic plan, all of us wanted to build things, right? And sometimes, I didn't hear yet Bob the builder, maybe we're not supposed to say that. But Bob really loves to build things, and as a leadership group, it was in our DNA to say, how can we make this bigger and better? At the same time, we respect and we love tradition. Don't add another cabin to Brookwoods. Don't change things. And so these things were in constant conflict and really in a healthy tension through our whole time as a board. During the time of being able to do a strategic plan is all about deciding not what you're going to do, but also deciding what you're not going to do. So we came up with a lot of strategic alternatives, and somewhere around 2007, we named them all. Bob and I had a lot of fun coming up with these names. One of them was called Max the Moose. And of course, we haven't, how many people have been or spent a session at Moose River Outpost? Anybody? Good. So Moose River Outpost is a special place. Back in 2007, it didn't make sense. Things that we had tried had not completely worked. It was very far away. It was expensive. And remember, the leaky bucket was smaller because it's fewer years. And word of mouth is how most of us heard about camp. There's no first mouth to tell the next person at Moose River Outpost. However, empty beds, it's a theme. I got to bring it up again. And to think about the board and Bob and his team were so committed to not only filling these camps the way you all know about it, as well as to be able to give that opportunity to other families, particularly maybe from a different background, maybe from a different location, was really strong in the hearts of the staff and the board. So we put together the Max the Moose strategy. We even got the chance to go meet with George Bennett Sr., if you remember from the COH video, how his testimony was so amazing, and share the vision for Moose River Outpost. These are my notes, but I apologize. Share the vision, and Bob and I got to do that together. It was a really special time, and he's just like, listen, I trust you guys. You're doing the Lord's work, and I believe in camp. And that extra confidence really pushed us forward. Now, we put together a 5-year vision together with Bob and his team. Now, it's about 15 years later, and we've just accomplished the vision that was set by Bob and his team during that time. This would be the first 8-week sessions we had at Moose River Outpost since it started. So I'd like to say thank you for that vision way back. And a shout out to Seth and Kathy Coates. I don't think they're here, but they put a lot of sacrifice behind that. But that's just one example of having vision over a long time. We wrote a book when I was staff, Long Obedience in the Same Direction, and thinking about that now, I can see it looking back as a completely different story than when I was 18 years old, trying to understand what it meant back then. So many times, the empty bed, you have to do the math on that. And I know some of you guys are academics. If you just think about the extra bed at Moose River Outpost, or the extra work we did to fill the beds at Brookwoods when it was not full. Every one of those families could be you and your kids, could be what your kids do and their kids do, the staff that's here. Everyone has got a large multiplication effect. The work that Bob and Debbie have done here has affected all of us and our kids and our grandkids. And the work they've done, I think that you don't see, is that I know camp is different than when it was when I was here. Like, we were doing a lot of different things. It might have been a little thin relative to management, for lack of a better word. I can tell you this transition today, I've talked to a lot of people, thinking about Tim and his family and Bob and Debbie and the long term. Really, you're in great hands, not just because Tim and his family are amazing, but more importantly, no offense, Tim, is the whole team together that Bob and the team have put in place. The level of staff at this camp and all 3 camps in the conference is significant. I think I might have been the last generation of camp to get away with certain things. Now, things are just a lot more professional, and they're covered for the most part. It's still hard, it's still very tiring, I'm sure, staff, but they have a year-round team that gives really continuity to this camp. So that generational effect, the increase, the multiplication of the gospel can be reached through filling those empty beds, reaching families and their kids really for eternity. And the 2 things that Moose River does, as it just is really our mission, is just seeing Christ through these awe-inspiring places and really seeing Christ through the relationships that you all have with each other. So, Bob and Debbie, thank you so much for your dedication, your consistency, your faithfulness. Just great example to me and my family, and it's been a pleasure working together. Thank you.
Hey Gordon, how's your summer in the Wildcat Academy going?
Hey Robert, it's okay.
Oh, what's wrong? Are you homesick, not liking your activities?
No, not homesick. I'm just a little sad. The Bowlings and the Strodels are retiring and we won't see them at camp as much.
Wow, that is really sad.
Behold, it is I, Gadget Man. An old friend, and I'm here to teach you to be your own hero.
But Gadget Man, we're so sad.
Yeah, and this is a big problem. Boys, circumstances of life sometimes dictate that you must rely on your own cunning and skills to tackle the problems you encounter. Let me put this into perspective for you. There are over 111 toilets and toilet seats at camp. Do you know what that means? It means there's 112. But it's more fun to say over on you. And when trouble strikes, you must tackle it with vigor.
Oh, so I see what you're saying. Even though we're sad about all this change happening, we can be really happy for all the things that the Bowlings and the Strodels have done for us over the years.
It's true, they've touched so many people. And their lives.
Well, my work here is done, boys. I've got to go. There's a backup in Laconia.
But Gadget Man, will we ever see you again?
Oh, time will tell, my friends. Time will tell. But I want you to remember one thing. When life feels just a little stuck and you can feel that the waters are starting to rise, for the sake of Mike Brigham, don't press the silver button. Oh, and one more thing, just to leave you guys with. Hit it, kids. I think you know this one. You've got a friend in me. That's right, boys. You've got a friend in me. When the trail looks rough ahead and you're miles from your nice warm bed, you just remember what the Gadget Man said. You've got a friend in me. Hey, why don't you take one, Dawson?
All right, let's see what we can do. You got a friend. Nope.
Here it comes, right for you. You got
a friend in me.
That's right, let him hear you in Wolfboro.
You got a friend in me.
Everyone, I think we know this.
You got troubles, I got them too. There isn't anything that I wouldn't do for you. We'll stick together and we'll see it through. 'Cause you got a friend in me.
Show them how it's done, Gordon.
You got a friend in me.
Some other folks might be smarter than I am, bigger and stronger too. Woo! But none of them will ever love you the way I do. It's me and you, Gadget Man. And as years go by, friendship will never die. You can see it's our destiny. You got a
a friend in me.
So long, kids.
You got a friend in me.
Where's Tim over here?
You got a friend in me.
Tim over here.
Time for a little bit more fun. We've got a couple of fun stories to share. From the beginning, Bob liked to play his own kind of pranks at camp. Now, Grace Strodel told me a couple of weeks ago this story. One time when he was just walking for the first time, maybe, I don't know, with his nice, beautiful homemade sweater just before church, he disappeared. And Grace walked around and people said to her, "Grace, have you seen Bobby?" "Well, no," she said. "Grace, have you seen Bobby?" "Well, no." And she went around the corner and saw that he had gone into the garage, gotten a bucket of paint and a paintbrush, was painting a pole on the side of the building before church. Right, Grace? So that's just a picture of some of the fun that Bob has brought to camp from an early age, and he continued after that. In recent years, one of Bob's behind-the-scenes pranks has been printing out pictures and inserting all sorts of speech bubbles and putting them all over camp. Now, they've shown up on a bulletin board. Some of you may have gotten one in the mail. They've been put up at the boathouse. Okay, that's his own special kind of fun. Sometimes it was to celebrate a special occasion. What an honor. And other times it was to kind of poke fun at a trip where half the gear got left behind, or maybe a boat broke down at just the wrong time.
One of Bob's best pranks involved a solar-powered flashing buoy light that showed up in the boathouse. Every night when he had night patrol, he would quietly take the light out of the boathouse and stick it at the end of the diving pier. Now, during the day, nobody noticed it, but when darkness fell, that light would be there flashing. And it particularly drove David nuts. And David would say to a lot of front staff, "Get that light out of here!" Of course, they didn't know what was going on. And week after week, light kept showing up until finally at the end of camp, Bob fessed up. He said, "Yeah, I was the one that did that."
Of course, we senior staff played a few pranks on Bob as well. Now, we'll keep this list short, but we have had some good ones. One year, Dr. Tom Raff and his wife may have brought their cat to camp. The next year, Bob was clear: no more cats. But senior staff couldn't resist. So we placed some cat food outside of the loon, some water. There may have been a small litter box with a little bit of liquid and some small Tootsie Rolls buried in it. And it was oh so fun to see Bob get a little bit flustered when he saw those things, and the Raffs told him, "We did not bring our cat to camp."
Well, it quickly became common knowledge that Bob disliked cats. And cats of all sorts and sizes started showing up in his office. Most of them rescued from the exchange store at the Alton Town dump. Since I was running the wood shop in those days, I thought I'd get in on the fun, and I cut out about 15 cat silhouettes of different shapes and sizes. This is actually one of those from that batch. In the old Brookwoods office, you had to walk right past Debbie's office to get to Bob's. So I waited for him to leave his office unattended. And one day he walked out and left the door open. Well, I think Bob was counting on Debbie to kind of keep guard on his office, because as I rushed into his office with my box full of cats and started placing them strategically, I heard these words.
And what are we doing here?
And without, breaking the stride, I continued to place the cats, and I said, I'm helping Bob decorate his office.
And Debbie said, and how can I help?
And the next thing we knew, there's Bob in the doorway, flustered, a little dismayed, and he said, I don't know which is worse. The fact that you're filling my office with cats, or that my wife is helping you.
Debbie had a role in a lot of fun things that happened at camp. This is Debbie's work basket, and you knew if she was carrying it back and forth to the main house, she was either headed to work or her office was closed for the day. And Debbie, I even have a check in this for you today because somebody came and paid it with a check today. So your days of work are not quite over. Debbie would often watch some of the shenanigans with an amused smile and patiently wait for Bob to catch on in his own good time. And that happened both during the camp season and during the off season, where sometimes he would continue to find small cats placed around camp. But Debbie had her own way of serving, and she's not a real joke player, but she had these special touches that she brought to camp. In the days before we had outgoing day t-shirts, many staff were quite grateful that Debbie would wash their shirt on Saturday night of outgoing day before incoming day on Sunday.
And how many of you as LDPs built bridges and towers out of toothpicks and marshmallows when Bob and Debbie had your group over for ice cream?
And for many years, Debbie loved to have the Whitetails over for a tea party. It was a real celebration for them, and I think for Debbie as well.
And at the end of the month, when Deer Run had breakfast in bed and Brookwoods was having their breakfast cookout before leaving for Whale's Tails, Debbie used to host a private breakfast for the Deer Run support staff, so they didn't have to brave all that craziness down at Inspiration Point.
And finally, Bob and Debbie have been known to hop in their boat and to bring ice cream out to the island when either the Moosers or the Whitetails were spending the night.
And so on behalf of generations of campers and staff,
we want to say thank you to Bob and Debbie, to all they did to make camp a fun and special place. Thank you.
Does this work? Does this work too? So this is 10 years in the future at Under the Pines Retirement Home.
Hi, Mary Beth. I heard there's rain in the forecast. Let's go for a hike. I love hiking in the rain. It really pulls people together to hike in really bad weather. We could take this.
George, you're so right. I love wet boots. But wait, we can't because we're having dinner at the retirement home with Bob and Debbie. Oh, wait. Hi, Bob. Hi, Debbie.
Wow, let me take what you brought. What do you have?
I brought some bacon and coffee cake as an appetizer. You can never have too much.
I mean, you must be really hungry.
That could feed like 100 people. There's only 4 of us.
You would be surprised how fast it goes. Oh, wait a minute. And ketchup. Ketchup. I brought ketchup. You never have too much ketchup.
Especially at camp, I mean.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we did not have enough time to make orange chicken. We were too busy organizing the lost and found.
Well, I've really been keeping busy organizing the crazy carnival for the retirement home. I've got these ladies testing out the shaving cream water slide.
Ooh, maybe somebody should check on them.
Oh no, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Matilda had a hip replacement like a month ago, and she's all good now. She's good to go. Yeah. Oh, speaking of crazy carnival, the Andreesens said that they were going to help organize the three-legged cane race.
Now, Debbie, before you go, can I get that petty cash bag for the dunk tank? Yeah.
I hope everybody took their swim test for that dunk tank.
Now, Bob, I see you have your Buzz Lightyear shirt on. I mean, did you get that from the Lost and Found? The Lost and Found is not for you.
No, I own this one. I've got several, I know about the Lost and Found. I'm good like that. But hey, it's a beautiful evening. It's a perfect night for a rocket launch. I've got the guys from the Pinochle table working on their rockets as we speak. Should be a great night for rockets.
Earlier today, I had those same people from the canoe club. They were working on painting their paddles. We're going up to the Allagash next week. They're painting them for a really long time. It's turning into like Michelangelo 2.0 out there.
I wanted to tell you that Bob has some ideas for renovations to our Under the Pines retirement home.
Really out of the box. I've really been going all out.
So I love Bob's expansion plans. This is fantastic. I see the retirement home here and the blob, because you have to have one of those at a retirement home, and the water ski launch in front of the boathouse, also important at a retirement home.
I mean, we got to show it to everybody too. Is there a zip line and a Zoom flume? Is there space for that here?
Absolutely, George. Absolutely. We need all of that and more side porches so people can dry their wet clothes and shoes, everything from hiking in the rain.
Yeah, you're right. I couldn't agree more.
I'm so glad we all were able to move on from camp to stuff we really enjoyed.
All right, that was great. So if I could invite Bob and Debbie up here. Debbie, if you wouldn't mind coming up, we have some gifts for you to open. I hope you brought George's pocket knife because you might need it. We don't have a Rocket Man shirt, but I'm sure you'll make this work. And some of these are miniatures, so these are replicas of the real thing. But come on up, open up, and let everyone see what you have.
infinity and beyond.
It's a hand painted by Peter Ferber with the two of you in the boat.
Peter Ferber is a famous local artist. He also did all of our glissés and all that we've offered to you all. So normally I don't ever stand in front of the mic, but a request thing that I do. So I did give a bit of time to thoughts, and really all I want to say is today really is a day of thankfulness for all of us, for you, for us. I want to say thank you to the Bennett family, to Peter and Jerry, the Parks family, the Nagelvorts, the Schultzes, the Emerys, all of those early board members that had us up to interview and hired us all those years ago, and mostly trusted us to run this fine organization. So thank you to those people. To all of you current parents who were once our staff and now bringing back your own kids, like, wow, that's amazing, thank you. To all the camp staff who have served with us over the years, thank you. The Bowlings, the Prides, the Strodels, the Gleasons, the Tomasians, goes on and on and on. I could stand here for a very long time listing names. But thank you guys. To all of our donors who supported the scholarship program, and yes, Bob, the builders, programs and buildings, thank you. To the current staff who have helped us through this transition, we really appreciate you, both for camp and for the transition in our own lives too, thank you. Pastor Mac and Gail McDonald, who believed in us so many years ago when they married us, and we thank you very, very much. And to all of you for coming this weekend to celebrate what God has done and will continue to do in this ministry that is His. We love you all. Thank you so much.
I am Gadget Man. Thank you very much for coming. I have been wrong all these years. I've talked about a temporary community that the camp is of. And we get together every summer, we have this great time together. And it's not a temporary community. You guys are lifelong camp folks. You're always going to be camp folks. And this weekend for us, for Bob and Debbie, and I know for George and Mary Beth, it's like going to heaven. And we're seeing a lot of people that we're going to see someday in heaven. And we're going to see some campers that are in heaven because of what happened here at camp, what happened with a lot of great staff members. Board of Directors, thank you for listening to me for all those years. Where's Dave? Yeah, thanks for listening all those years, Dave. About 90% of the time. Appreciate it. The other 10%, well, I'm glad you did listen to some of my ideas. And the other stuff, well, let's just call it even on that one. So thank you very much. And staff, thank you for listening to me about 75% of the time. And I know, considering conversations I've had with some of you already this weekend, I know that percentage is higher now that you're a parent and now that you understand really what's going on here at camp. So thank you very much for listening. And I just a special thanks to my wife, who was really the brains of the organization here. And thank you, Debbie. And I love you, and thank you for your teammate with me over all the years and keeping me straight. Thank you for making sure I didn't wear the same clothes every single day at camp. I appreciate that. It all be the same color. And thanks for your great mom to our kids. I appreciate that. So at this point, I'd like to introduce the Executive Director, Tim Nielsen, to come up. And Tim, you're out of uniform here, And the staff realize here that one of the most important things we do at camp at the end of our staff training week, which is really 2 weeks, is to hand out the name tags. This is something you've earned and something we don't take lightly. So Tim, here's your executive director name tag. And I was going to pin that on you, but I don't put my hand in your shirt. And here are your business cards. So one of your jobs is to raise money for the camp, so continue to hand these out to people, okay? Because we got to finish this capital campaign, so thank you.
All right, this is how you make the last speech very short. You put ice cream in the sun. So I want to thank each of you for coming. It is fantastic to be here with you. What great weather we've had this weekend. I'm so glad that you could be here with us. For those of you who are going to watch this online, thank you for taking the time to do this. We wish we could all have been together. And when Bob talks about this idea of us being together in heaven, the great thing is that Melissa will not have to organize that. But she probably will. So we do want to thank Melissa and everyone who was a part of organizing this weekend. That definitely includes John Cooper and everyone in the kitchen. Contingency from Mexico and Colombia holding it down.